Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS Winter Americas Edition. We're moving into the Americas section of the broadcast. My name is Fear Dragon. I am here with the most American man alive. It is Nathanius. What's up?
I don't think I've done enough for this country to be called that, but thank you, Fear Dragon. I'm doing fantastic. Ready for some good old StarCraft in the Americas region. Emphasis on the us, as we have a pretty varied group today in terms of where these players are from.
Yeah, every one of these players from a different continent. We got Seether from Australia. We got TLO from Germany, who's living in Canada, so he counts as Americas right now today. And we also got Silky, who's from North America. He's from the United States of America. And of course, we even got Coffee from China. So it's quite a diverse selection today. But before we get into that, you guys might be wondering, what is the format of how these guys are going to actually be duking out a battle today? Well, it's going to be a normal group because we are in the group stage number 1 for WCS Winter. 32 players have made it into group stage 1. 16 players will advance to group stage 2, where then 8 players will advance to the round robin. 6 players will advance to an offline finals, and that's going to be a jolly good time with a King of the Hill style format. But they are also playing for a pretty awesome prize pool, Nate. That prize pool is something definitely to be on the lookout for. It is, in fact, $60,000 in prize money per region. So America gets $60,000 and Europe gets $60,000, $12,000 of first place, and $675 to anyone that gets knocked out in the group stages today or tomorrow.
It's awesome. Great rewards just for qualifying, really. Motivating the players to, even just qualifying for this event and losing is still a really big step for a lot of amateur players. We're seeing so many people in WCS Winter that we typically don't see competing in the circuit because those events have less space for the qualifying players. It's much harder, and then if you want to compete in an open bracket for WCS events, you got to fly yourself out, get a hotel. It's not easy. So Winter providing, I think, a really good platform for a lot of these undiscovered, we could say, players.
Absolutely. And as we take a look to see how these 4 players are going to be duking it out in terms of the matchups, we do start off the day with Seether versus Coffee, a little bit of Terran versus Terran action. Then we're going to be moving into Zerg versus Zerg territory with TLO versus Silky. And we'll, of course, then move into the lower bracket match, the upper bracket match, the decider match. You guys know the drill.
All I can promise you that the elimination match and the winners match are both going to be Terran versus Zerg.
Have you done the math on that? Have you crunched the numbers?
The numbers. Wait. In Control is telling me not to go out the front door today because I will trip, so I have to use the back exit.
We have to trust him.
He's got my back.
He's doing science in Antarctica right now, and that is where the most numbers get crunched.
That's right. And we have the lobby ready. We're going to be jumping into this first game soon. It's going to be Seether versus Coffee. They'll be playing on the Americas region. I don't know which game site we'll be playing on.
We'll find out.
It's going to be Australia versus China for TvT.
That'll be a fun little treat to find out. Yeah. I am waiting to see. Now, the default server, if they can't agree on a server, is US West.
I imagine that's what we'll probably play on.
Okay. I really don't actually know how this is going to go.
It's US West, by the way.
Okay, cool.
Just so you guys are wondering. So both players will be playing with I'd say a significant amount of latency. Unfortunately, they are so far away from each other on this planet. That's pretty much the only thing we can do.
I would say at least this guy up in the top left-hand corner of the map is used to playing with that latency. He is the blue Terran player, Seether, Team SYF.
And his opponent in the southeast side of the map of Kairos Junction, we've got our red Terran. He is Coffee. We'll find out if he's a piping hot espresso or maybe he's a smooth, chill, cold brew in this best of 3 Fear Dragon. Is he going to rise to the occasion and get out of this group in first place?
Time will tell. Just a note about these 2 players. Seether, I think, definitely one of the better players in the Australian region. He's come up. I really like this guy when he does show up for his show matches. I still hold that against him and him not showing up for one of the show matches is scheduled like 3 times. But when he does show up, he wins. He does really, really well.
When he wins, he wins. He wins good. It looks great.
Coffee, on the other hand, is one of those players that I think was doing well, mostly just in the Chinese scene. We didn't get to see a lot of him in the foreign circuit, and he did sort of disappear for about a year and a half. So this is his first event in the last year and a half that we're seeing in competitive StarCraft 2. So anything really is possible. We don't actually have that much info about what his playstyle is looking like or what kind of form he's in outside of just the qualifiers, and of course managing to make it in to the and I think only really losing to players like Time and stuff, which he lost his Terran versus Terrans in the qualifiers. That may say something, but we'll have to wait and see if that's actually going to be the case.
Yeah, and also, you know, we've been doing some plugs for that wonderful show, the Pylon Show. This is the second series that we get in WCS Winter for the question that has been raised: China and Australia, which region has stronger players?
This is true.
A lot of the Australian supporters have been talking about how the region has been growing in strength, and some of the better Chinese players, as far as their veterans go, getting a bit older, getting married.
Yeah.
Falling off a little bit on the StarCraft wagon, but we've got some other players. I can definitely say I have not seen too much of Coffee's play before. I'm interested to see where this goes. As far as TvT goes, of course, very standard openings from both players. Nothing out of the ordinary. Getting your Reapers, getting your Hellions. Reactor Hellion, I think, is a lot less common, which makes me feel that Coffee's going to be doing something perhaps a bit more interesting, maybe.
Yeah, the Reactor takes a bit of time to finish up, so that does mean the 2 Hellions pop out just a little bit later, but it's in time to deal with the Reapers. Some nice micro from Coffee, but he does end up losing one of the Hellions and kills off 2 Reapers in exchange. Overall, 100 extra gas lost, I guess, for Seether with the 2 Reapers going down. But, of course, it does come with a little bit of scouting.
It's just like a standard casualty of early game TvT.
Yeah.
Like, the value of the Reavers and Hellions is almost meaningless. The entire purpose of them is to either accidentally overrun your opponent or be overrun, or, like, you know, keep yourself from being overrun.
Yeah.
And then everything really boils down to the next phase of the game, which is the Ravens with the tanks and all that. And he gets more Hellions, but I'm like, no, he's not just going to... You don't just crank out Hellions in this matchup.
Yep.
I miss the days of 4GG because he was one of those guys that if he was playing right now and like competing, he would be showing us some like sick TvT builds where he's like, no, you actually can still do 2 Factory Blue Flame Hellion and overwhelm people.
That'd be amazing. I would dig that. We do have a little bit of skirmishing happening here, but with the Cyclone out for Seether, this is easily going to get pushed back. And for the most part, both these players have the same sort of setup, with the difference being the Reactor on that barracks already finished up for here for Coffee, whereas Seether just sitting on that idle barracks for now.
Yeah.
Gas guys,
it
gets
means
up a 3rd CC.
Yeah, it means Seether has to play a lot more defensively. He can't really build Marines, so he can't do that standard Marine tank push that we've talked about time after time here. I can't stop saying time because now I'm thinking about the other Chinese Terran player. It's getting in my head.
Okay, Cyclone over here. I like this for Seether, just getting ready to intercept any kind of proxy starport shenanigans that could have been coming out, whether it be a Liberator or a Banshee. Anything that was planning to come from that angle would get shut down. So Seether just playing safe. He knows that he is a bit in the dark about what the follow-up is, since he only just now actually got that Reaper back in and did see the Swapperoonie for the starport going to the Reactor, and that should give him a little bit of a safety of mind.
Yeah. Well, knowing that that's going to take forever is really good. The setup is still very good for Coffee to make a push. I am a little bit worried for Seether. If Coffee decides that he wants to attack with these 2 Ravens, we've talked about this. This is the pinnacle of this matchup. And look at this. Someone's saying, I'm not going to worry about the lag too much. I'm going to go mech. So we're going to have Bio versus mech. Seether, with all his experience playing TvT on Americas, he has played versus many a mecher in this matchup.
Yep. Seether, of course, playing a lot of his ladder games on America, but on top of that, he has played in a lot of the different tournaments where the default server is America, so he is very much used to this. I'm not as sure if Coffee's going to have as much experience with this kind of stuff and the latency, but we'll see. 2 of the cycles already getting picked off.
I know a lot of the Chinese players do play on the Korea server, and the Great Firewall kind of introduces a lot of latency for them to do that. So they're not crazy unfamiliar with it. Actually, I remember when we did IEM Shanghai, all the players that were practicing there were playing on Korea. It was very laggy, so.
There's the disable on both of the siege tanks and enough energy for auto turrets to be thrown down. The Vikings are going to be able to clean up those Ravens, so it's a little bit costly there for Coffee, but he wins and dominates the ground engagement.
Siege the tanks right there, I think, next to the production. Pushing into the natural gives an opportunity for SCV pull.
If he really wants to, he could
land the Vikings on the tank and he can kill it.
He could move these siege tanks even a little bit further forward and get both of the tech
That's
bots.
what I was saying. He should, I wanted him to siege him by the cliff on the right. This position, like, he can still hit the command center, which is nice, but he, you're really running the risk of getting SCV pull, actually, the closer you go to that command center. Because SCV pull is, well, he has enough Marines maybe to deal with it. Yeah,
I think so.
And that tank on siege, so he's just going to inch ever closer. He's going to have to just pull everything. It's the only thing Seether can do right now.
Seether's in a really, really tough spot. He's still got workers to make the situation work. He's going to try and land the Viking, and the Viking doesn't even manage to
I love
land
the counter land. The Vikings for Coffee are going to be able to not only soak damage, but they deal that bonus to all of those mechanical units. And Coffee takes game number 1. Very crisp, very clean build. I don't really have anything crazy to talk about in terms of like deep analytical breakdown.
Yeah.
This is an extremely normal TvT build. And one of the things that makes mech a lot weaker in this matchup these days is that metagame for this, you know, 10-ish Marines. He had a couple Hellions there, which I guess is a little unusual because he went for the fast reactor. But a couple Vikings, 2 Ravens, and 2 tanks. If all you have are Hellions and Hellion tank versus Marine tank, when you interference matrix those siege tanks, it's not even close. Like the Marines are actually very good against Hellions when there's no blue flame and when you don't have like this overwhelming number of Hellions that are getting, you know, one shot going across every Marine in an arc. And that was just very well executed. Coffee did the most standard type of push move out that we have in TvT, and Seether just, if he wanted to play mech, he needed to be a little bit more careful with his unit positioning. You have to be able to buy enough time to get out units where you don't get overwhelmed by that interference matrix. Because his tanks kind of moved to that high ground position, on Kairos Junction especially, like the spot that he went to was very vulnerable.
Or over by the 3rd base.
Yeah, because he was trying to be so greedy.
Yeah, I wonder if what his plan was saying, okay, well, because I'm going for mech, I don't need the medevacs there, so you get at the Vikings, which is pretty normal. But I think that he may have been hoping, and maybe this is what happens in his games where he practices against those kind of pushes. The Vikings are sniping off the Ravens before they get off those interference matrices on the siege tanks, but the Vikings weren't actually by the siege tanks. They were still rallying in from the main base, and they're kind of a little bit out of position, and that just small little thing could have just cost them the game there.
Yeah. The other big problem is that when you play mech, generally people are like, oh yeah, well you want to spread yourself out, but not too much. A tank here, a tank there. But when you're playing versus interference matrix, it's best to have everything really close together, because it's like, oh yes, we'll have a tank on this spot and a tank here. Well, this one gets interference matrixed. 5 Marines walk up, kill it. Next tank is on its own, then interference matrix, boom. But if you drop it on both, then the Marines kind of have to commit a little bit more to get rid of both of them. Or maybe they don't have enough energy to actually get everything.
Okay, well, we get ready to move into game number 2. It's going to be on King's Cove that we end up seeing our first player spawn as the Blue Terran from SYF. Currently sitting down 0-1 in this series. He is Seether.
And he faces off against our Red Terran player in the Southeast, leading the series 1-0. Coming from China, he is Coffee.
So what kind of coffee is he named? What is the verdict?
Oh man, well that was just like that build was so standard. This feels weird because I was gonna say like I like to drink black coffee, but I think most people in the United States probably do put a little bit of cream and sugar, right? That's like a normal thing.
So you're saying he's an Americano?
Maybe.
Playing in the Americas.
Maybe. You know, I'm not, so he could be like maybe like a well-made regular coffee. Maybe like a good pour over, you know? Like not quite a drip, because the build quality was definitely good there. But it's not like he did something that was so out of the ordinary, you know? This wasn't like a sweet build. He's not a vanilla latte by any means.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, we got pretty quick double gas here from Coffee.
Now, if he battlecruiser rushes this game, he becomes a caramel macchiato. But I highly doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, that one's a little bit harder to spin. Both these players are gonna be going for that kind of 1-1-1 or at least a fast barracks, fast factory
And if he
setup.
proxies, he's instant coffee.
SCV's moving around on opposite sides, so both of them are going to be evading each other, but both will find that there is no natural expansion, no one-racks expansions coming out from their opponents. And we'll see what Coffee decides to do with those SCVs and where the Reapers will head.
I guess he wants to spot when that expansion is going to be. I like SCV scouting. I've always been a strong opponent of the value of getting that early scout.
Missed it. Wait, you should have had vision there.
Well, maybe he's Reaper saw it, but he didn't see it, Fear Dragon.
Oh man, if only there was
The
that neural net
classic.
link.
It's that classic, yeah.
Can you imagine StarCraft 10, where you just have a neural link and you get fed information from the units directly reporting to you?
No, that's too much information. I just want to be able to issue commands without having to make physical actions, so that when our bodies are old and frail, we can all in the old folks gamers home.
There you go.
Yeah. Or when I go to visit Tasteless there, at least we can still play together.
I want you to blink into their main base, and then I want you to slash dance.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir?
Well, you think the thing is, with the way your brain works, you'd be able to issue those commands without having to actually use words, right? As soon as you would start to have the inkling that you want to do it, it would do it.
I've always wondered sometimes how StarCraft units would respond if you got into a game where the units could tell you no. If you told them a ridiculous command.
Like you don't have enough badges.
You
to
need
tell
like a
these Reapers to go
morale.
up the
There's
cliff.
some morale level that you have to maintain with
You
these
can't even
units.
trade units in this game. If you catch them all your own, then they can't disobey you.
Oh my god. I got a little bit grim. Well, we got a very nice spread here from Seether. You should be prepared for the early bits of aggression. But Coffee is still taking some good trades here. Most of the damage also happening on that Hellion, so he has to back up. That's not going to be healed up immediately like the Reaper damage does.
This gas in the natural, by the way, is such a huge part of TvT. Like getting this one early on. This is why it's so important not to have your expansion delayed. That's why it's so important to be able to get that base up very quickly. Being able to mine that geyser this fast lets you get the Cyclone and then the Raven and tank at the same time. And that's so important because on average, it's like every 43-ish seconds, what used to be a minute on the old Blizzard clock, as this Liberator sieges up. It's going to be able to get a few SCVs.
Yep.
But basically, your two geysers give you about 200 minerals per like real production cycle, like you know the fake Blizzard minute or 43 seconds in real time. And getting that extra refinery allows you to build a tank and a Raven at the same time. You can't afford it off of just one base gas. Really good Liberator denial though. 6 workers killed and delayed the mining there forever.
Yep. Liberator manages to survive as well.
That's big.
Is awesome. Go repair that back up, and if you get into the siege tank wars, you can definitely leverage that against your opponent's siege tanks.
Yep. It's really, really important because we should be able to see him. Yep, he's got the second Raven on the way with that tank. If he only had 2 geysers, can't afford it.
Okay, well, with the extra Ravens coming out here for Seether, he's going to be able to combat the interference matrix.
He's doing the same build, right, Seether? He doesn't have the reactor on the barracks, and he gets the 3rd command center really fast. So I guess we're going to see him build 2 factories after his second Raven is done.
Yeah, he had trouble with the first push, but this game, as long as he's in position, he's going to have the second Raven that's going to help him out a lot this time. He's not going to have necessarily the massive Viking cloud, I think, that he had in the last game to try and snipe off his opponent's Ravens. But there's still definitely, I think, a better opportunity to try and defend against the push.
Yeah, certainly so. Interested to see if this attack does anything remotely similar to what he got in the last game. That was really brutal. Coffee had such a good engagement. And it's weird because I still don't really know too much about him. And I honestly didn't learn anything about him in that last game because he did do the
Standard.
If you play TvT, you do this every game. By the way, this siege tank, why is it taking the longest road possible? He is building another factory there.
I think that there's not enough space here.
You actually can't. Yeah, I was going to say, the ramp, this ramp here where the starport is, you actually can't move a tank through that. Even if the building factory wasn't there, you can't move a tank around this position.
That's pretty amazing.
SimCitying on this map, if you get the top left spawn, it's actually much worse. Your units can't go around the left side of your production.
Well, hopefully that doesn't hurt the reinforcing path there for Seether, as he is going to be facing off against this aggression. The Cyclone immediately gets picked off and only kills a Hellion in exchange for its life. Not the ideal position. Seether's got 3 siege tanks, but there's still enough interference matrices to deal with all of them. He has 1 more available, but isn't going to decide to use it.
Coffee lost one of his tanks there. This comes back to, I think, one of the... yeah. This comes back to the latency question for me, though. I do wonder how much of an impact that has on this.
This is actually so funny. The Viking, though, is going to change the tide of this.
Interference matrix is a funny.
There was still technically enough energy for another interference
TvT,
matrix,
man.
but he gets pushed back. The Viking.
Terran versus Terran. He finally will be able to kill that tank.
Bought himself a lot of time, though, between the multiple interference matrices. So Seether has enough tanks to hold this high ground for a little bit longer. And now the 2 Vikings pop out here for Seether, but he's going to be up against 3 Vikings now. 4.
The interference matrix on the Viking.
Uh-oh.
Space does grab the Raven. Wow. I was going to say, that's a good reaction time to get the missile turret or the auto turret down, but you can't do anything with it.
He's going to have another interference matrix in about another 4 or 5 seconds, and he might be able to inch his way forward, but it's very tough to find the exact position where only 1 tank would be able to hit you.
Yep.
Disables the Cyclone because
it's a very hard
locking
ramp to
onto
push up.
Raven.
Yeah, very hard ramp to push up here. Like, you want to get a good position, but I feel like you're better off trying to swing around towards that 3rd base area and siege the main.
Didn't go well for those Marines. But
you don't want to give up your air control here, though, because that's also a really key factor behind all of this. Like, he's going to move to the right side. I'd love to see him go out and try to pressure the 3rd.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and do that.
He's already taking the gases. He's like, I can't wait to bring my command center over here.
Yeah, might need a little bit more time. The Viking Cloud for Seether is about even right here, but there are more Vikings rallying in across the map. They're going to help change the tide of this battle. Remember that there isn't
Did you get
really...
the Cyclone? Yeah.
Yeah, he killed the Cyclone earlier.
Oh my god. Just keep rallying Vikings, and then as soon as you can, squeeze in 1 Liberator. I think the game ends, right? That's TvT. When you're playing mech, man, that anti-air capability early is so rough because the Cyclones cannot really... The Cyclones can't take a hit from the tanks to kill a Viking. The Cyclones die, and he's actually going to kill that 3rd command center.
Oh my god!
You know what? Land the Vikings in the main. Oh, he's going to spread out and try to collapse on this. Okay, I like that too.
You see the SCVs are still pulled, so I think he's fine just trying to defend here.
He's going to collapse to break out of his natural to take a 3rd base that he actually can't take because he doesn't have the command center anymore.
Okay, a lot of SCVs are going to start dying here. The Vikings do land, taking out that frontline buffer. The Vikings on the right-hand side do manage to take out those siege tanks. There's still a few bio units left over. This should get cleaned up with, I think, the Vikings for Seether being able to land, but man, was it costly.
Yeah, no, this was really bad for Seether. Coffee's got his 3rd base mining. He's got workers and mules there. He has to be feeling very good right now. Like, this is really bad because he's got a bunch of Marines. He's got medevacs on the way. There's still that Liberator as well that he's going to keep trying to harass with. And I like everything about what Coffee's done this game. His push was executed brilliantly. His control was great. He made this adjustment over to the 3rd and got the 3rd command center kill, which definitely should not happen in a game like this. It's way too important to lose that.
3rd command center being rebuilt and about to finish up here for Seether, so we will eventually be able to establish this. There's also the Liberator harassment that's coming on in to the main base. I think the Vikings are slightly out of position, so the Liberator should be able to snag at least a few kills, if not some denied mining time at a minimum. We already see the Liberator siege up in the natural at the exact same time, so going to split up the attention a bit. Vikings come to deal with that Liberator the natural. The one in the main base still going uncontested though.
Yeah, and that really, it's also just like a pig stalling tactic. He's looking for the 3rd command center with these units that are going on the right side.
Yep.
He's like, where's the 3rd base again? It's like, I'd love to find that 3rd, and Seether has not moved the command center over yet. Vikings kill the Liberator, and I think he's just going to take...
Oh my god. Medevac's going to aggressively drop into the main base. Siege tank on the low ground trying to cover these bio units. And there just still isn't that much here for Seether. He's got a decent number of siege tanks, but there's no frontline buffer. There's nothing that can quickly and mobily move to defend this base.
Yep, and he's going to dive on these tanks. That's actually really good for Seether. So you see this attack, if he had gone up towards the mineral line, I think it's a lot more frustrating. And this siege tank is just going to pop off a couple shots before he dies.
17 workers end up falling, though. Seether not only having a delayed third base, but now also sitting down a good bit in the worker count. And a fourth base on the way as Coffee makes another push out, sitting up 1-0. This is a really, really comfortable spot for Coffee.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. This is the perfect scenario. Your early push did insane damage. You have not been harassed at all in any way this game, really. 2-2 is coming in. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This map is very good to be defensive on, which is why I'm not going to say that this is like over or anything, because, you know, plenty of mech Terrans on the Americas server that have stalled out the longest TvTs of all time.
This is true.
This could become one of those games.
I do like that Coffee has been so aggressive, though, and in his opponent's face, trading out versus Siege Shanks. You can see that, let's see, 10 Siege Shanks have been killed on Seether's side of this game, and he's only got 6 right now, so he's lost quite a bit. Hellion run-by is trying to get some damage done, not actually killing too many workers, though, and Coffee just seems on top of it. He's been sending out Marines in these patrol paths, scouting out for any kind of run-bys or drops, and Seether has just not been able to make anything happen.
Nope. Everything he's wanted to do, it's just like, no, you have to defend, defend, defend. By the way, once you're done defending, you gotta defend a little bit more. However, there's a number of siege tanks that can be reached, right? He has 8 tanks. If all 8 tanks were situated reasonably close to each other and he tried to break through them, then it could get really bad. The way these tanks are staggered, he might have enough to punch up towards the 3rd. But that would still be really risky.
Yeah, Seether does
He's gonna
still
go for it.
Wow, okay, here we go. We're going to see the Bioforces charge up the ramp, a decent split of some of the units at the front line, but now they're all going to be clumped up, but it looks like they're just stutter-stepping their way to victory here. The Vikings land as a desperation move, but this third base has already been broken, and Seether is just going to tap out.
Coffee takes the first series here for Group G for Grande Cappuccino. As
That is the final verdict.
He moves on to the winners match.
Well done. Just super duper clean play, and the first game you're saying a very normal push there makes it work. Nothing really else to add to it. And then game number 2, being able to not only stop Seether, he got close to ending the game there again, but Seether was able to get a better defense up with a second Raven.
Yep.
He was able to make the defense happen a little bit longer, but he was still taking a lot of losses in the process, and eventually Coffee was able to just turn that into a victory.
Yeah, just played really, really well. Everything Coffee did was just very good, very, very standard, and yeah, I don't know. I think Seether's a pretty good player. I've heard lots of good things about him, but he got dunked on there.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate he wasn't able to get into his groove with the kind of mech style that he was going for. We'll see if he decides to go for that again, if he ends up in a rematch with a Decider or something. But, ladies and gentlemen, that does mean that Coffee moves on to that winner's match. And, of course, the next match, though, to see who is going to be in that winner's match against Coffee and who's going to go down to the lower bracket match versus Seether, that will be decided by TLO versus Silky. Yet another mirror matchup. We'll see you there.